little Johnny's gotten not so little anymore, and he doesn't quite fit his life jacket anymore. So rather than put it in the trash, we'll take that life jacket and we'll make sure that it can be used for other kids.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. I'm your host, Angie Scott. I hope you are all having a safe and healthy summer thus far as we gear up to head into fall. On this week's episode, we're going to be sharing some really important information when it comes to boating safety, and I don't think there could be a more important time in our history to bring these topics to the forefront. In fact, I think we're going to make this into a two-part episode so we have time to cover everything, but I'm pleased to welcome the Executive Director of the Sea Tow Foundation, Gail Culp, to the podcast. Gail, thanks so much for taking some time to be on the show and discuss these important topics.
Thanks, Angie, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So can you give everyone just a little insight into your personal background before we get into talking about some of these boating safety topics?
Sure thing. Actually, I started as a school teacher. I taught middle school, and so my background is education. And after working as a teacher for about 5 years, I moved, or as they say, jumped ship, into the boating world. I worked for NASBLA, the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, as their education director, and helped develop policy and procedures for boating education, whether you take the class in a classroom or you take it online. So for those of you that need your boating certificate or your boating license, I helped check out all of those courses and make sure that they meet the standards that are required.
Oh, cool.
And then after about 6 years with NASBLA, I jumped ship again and moved to the Sea Tow Foundation. And they were looking for an executive director, and I had a chance to meet with Captain Joe, who was the founder of Sea Tow Services International, and they had started a nonprofit about 6 or 7 years prior to that, and they were looking for a new executive director, and so I applied and got the job. And I did take a couple years off. I worked at a local YMCA near the house and also worked for a Greenways and Trails organization, but I came back to the foundation about 2.5 years ago and haven't gone anywhere since.
So do you also have like any background with boating just in your personal life?
Yes. I actually grew up on the Chesapeake Bay, not too far from the bay in Maryland, and my uncle owned a sailboat, so I got to go out on that often as a kid. And then my dad and I liked to canoe, and I ended up being a canoe instructor and then a kayak instructor at a local summer camp in Maryland when I was in high school and early college.
Cool. Well, good deal. Yeah, it helps to have a passion for the industry, you know, when you're working in it, being on the water and that sort of thing. I've found makes it a lot more exciting.
Definitely does. And I've been in the boating world now for 15 years, so I don't want to leave. It's my home. I know it well, and everybody that I work with, it's like a big family. Yeah. So it definitely enjoy everything I get to do and all the places I get to visit because of the boating safety world.
Right. Well, awesome. So tell us a little bit about just the background on Sea Tow Foundation and what the mission is before we start talking about a couple of the more specific programs.
Sure thing. Well, the Sea Tow Foundation was founded in 2007, as I said, by Captain Joe. He founded Sea Tow Services International. For those that don't know, Sea Tow is the marine assistance provider for people on the water. They're the yellow boats on the water. So if your boat breaks down or you need a tow, they're right there to help you out 24/7, 365. And he wanted to find a way to prevent boating accidents and incidents and encourage people to take a boating safety class, to learn some about boating safety, and just to be safe on the water and make safety and fun sort of go together. So he started the Sea Tow Foundation, and unfortunately he passed away a few years ago, but we're continuing his vision and his mission and his legacy with our Sea Tow Foundation, and that is what we do. We promote safe boating practices that will decrease accidents, deaths, and property damage for recreational boaters. And just like his vision was, we want boating to be safe and fun. And the two can go hand in hand. You don't have to be safe and be bored, and you don't have to have fun and be risky.
Right. Yeah, that's now that I'm a training captain with Freedom Boat Club, which is actually how I found out about, I'd heard of Sea-Tow Foundation before, but I didn't know about, all these different programs, until I got involved with that. But, and the website is actually boatingsafety.com. So, that's a good, resource for people. But, yeah, that's one thing that we, try to stress to our new members at Freedom Boat Club is that, well, boating is a fun activity. It's also not inherently a safe activity. And so we want everybody to go through a certain amount of training before we just let them loose on the waters, and they know some best practices when it comes to safety and that sort of stuff. So we don't want to scare anybody away by any means, but we also want to make sure that everybody's as safe as possible. And this year, as I mentioned in the intro, it seems like because more people are getting out on the water that maybe haven't done so in the past because they've had all these other activities that, now they're looking for other things they can do with the pandemic and everything. And so a lot more people have been getting out on the water, and we've seen a lot more boating accidents and drownings and things like that. At least in my area. I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing throughout the country.
Yep.
So like
yeah, we're seeing the exact same thing throughout the country.
Yeah. So like I said, this is like a really important time to stress boating safety and safety on the water. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation on the podcast. And so one of the big programs that the Sea-Tow Foundation has is the Life Jacket Loaner Program. And actually, there are a few stations around in my area. I've seen it. So I didn't really know much about it or where these came from, but I was like, oh, that's really cool that they have that option for people who don't have life jackets. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure thing. Well, our Life Jacket Loaner program started in 2008, and since then we've been able to provide over 65,000 life jackets to boaters around the country. And the way we do that is in a borrow and return system. So it's a loaner program. They can walk up to a stand and borrow a life jacket, and then after their day on the water or maybe their weekend on the water, they can return the life jacket to the stand so that another family is able to borrow it.
Cool. So do you have any issues with like people not returning the life jackets, or how does that work?
Actually, we really don't. In most locations, all of the life jackets we have are from infant through adult extra large, so we have all the sizes available, and they're bright yellow. So they stand out, mm-hmm. and the back of them are printed with the borrow and return language, or that this is part of the Life Jacket Loaner program, and they have our logo on them. And so most people are not going to keep them. They're going to want to return them because it's bright and obvious that they're not belonging to them.
Right.
But occasionally, yes, we do have some that get borrowed. In many cases, we'll have groups that will go and check on the Life Jacket Loaner stations, and we'll say, oh my gosh, we're missing 4 or 5 jackets, and they've been missing for a week now. And then all of a sudden they'll show back up. And it was a family that had rented a house on the lake, and they had borrowed a life jacket for each member of the family, and they kept them for the entire month while they were at the lake, and then they returned them at the end of the month when they went home. And so it was like, and then they'll get an email, hey, by the way, thank you for the life jackets. We really appreciated it. Our family had a great time, and they'll send a couple photos. So those are always fun.
Yeah.
But you don't expect it because you don't know until they tell you afterwards.
Gotcha.
But we have plenty of life jackets on all the stations so that those kind of things can happen.
Yeah. So is it volunteers that go around and check them, or how does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
We work with volunteers, and we have about 220 organizations that we work with. Some are Sea-Tow captains, but they're volunteering to help with the Life Jacket Loaner stations. Some are the Coast Guard Auxiliary and the Power Squadron, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is now known as America's Boating Club. We also work with the Army Corps of Engineers, State Park Rangers, Boy Scout, Girl Scout groups, and police and fire departments. So all different kinds of groups will set up Life Jacket Loaner stations for all different sorts of reasons. applications, and then we will work with them, and we have a grant program. So they apply to our grant, and our grant is open from November 1st to February 1st every year. And after the applications close, we review all the applications, and then we reach out to them and let them know if they have been selected to receive the life jackets. And the life jackets ship out early in the boating season, usually around April or May, so that they're there by the beginning of the summer boating season. Mm-hmm. And we help them with getting their loaner stands set up. We provide signage. We provide a manual so they know how to run the program and all the checklists and things that they might need. And then they're able to have the program run all summer long.
Great.
And actually all year long. Once they get the life jackets, they get to keep them and continue the life jacket loaner station for as long as the life jackets have life in them.
Gotcha. So I know on my lake in particular, there's one at Hamilton Creek, which is a marina, and then there's one at a public use area that has a beach, Anderson Road. So what other types of locations might somebody be able to apply for to have those there?
Sure. We have them at marinas. We have them at boat ramps and fuel docks. Some businesses that have waterfront offices or restaurants along the water might have a life jacket loaner station. They're inside parks, so whether it's a Parks and Rec department or a state park, or even we work with the National Park Service as well to have some life jacket loaner stations. And then I had a loaner station locally at one of my libraries. They had a fishing program that they had worked with the local, I'm in Pennsylvania. They worked with the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, and they had gotten a set of rods and reels and fishing tackle, and they wanted to have the life jackets to go with it. And so you would sign out all the gear just like you would sign out a book. You would give your library card, they would scan it, and then you could take the fishing tackle and the gear and a life jacket home. And then you could have it for the amount of time. They usually kept it for, I think it was 3 days. So it was like the same amount of time that you would rent or borrow a DVD. Whereas a book is 2 weeks is what my library does. So that's really cool that they had that. And because of the checkout system, we had so much more data from them because somebody was actually checking out the life jackets and checking out the tackle, and then they were bringing them back in. So we knew who it was being checked out to and what size got checked out and everything. It was really cool.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions is if you have any way to measure like usage or other than maybe just the volunteers checking the stations periodically, but to know if people are actually taking advantage of it.
Yep, we actually do. Part of our grant requirement, if you receive the life jackets from us, is that throughout the summer, May, June, July, August, and September, you're required to submit a monthly report to us. And we have that report form on our website, so it makes it easy for them. And it just provides a count. So when they go to check on the life jacket loaner station, if life jackets are hanging off crooked or they're on the ground in a pile, most likely it's because they've been used.
Right.
So when they're neatening up the station and they're buckling all the jackets again and getting all the straps untangled, they can count those as being worn. And then they're also looking to see how many life jackets have been added to the station, because a lot of people will donate their old life jackets to the station, and they took the kids out on the boat. They realized, little Johnny's gotten not so little anymore, and he doesn't quite fit his life jacket anymore. So rather than put it in the trash, we'll take that life jacket and we'll make sure that it can be used for other kids. And we'll just write on the back of it with a Sharpie marker that it's part of our life jacket loaner program, and it now becomes part of the stand.
Oh, cool.
So we get that count from them as well.
Yeah.
From billion-dollar ad budgets and arena naming rights to tens of thousands of retail locations, big wireless providers spend big to appear like they're your only option. How do they afford it all? That big bill you get at the end of every month. Mint Mobile had a different idea. Instead of brick and mortar overhead, Mint Mobile is online only. What does that mean for you? a whole lot of savings because wireless plans from Mint Mobile start at just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You'll save enough that you can get a brand new rod and reel for the upcoming season. For anyone who just hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can even keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. By going online only and eliminating traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings on to you. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That's mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm glad people are taking advantage of it and you have a way to kind of see that. So let's talk about like the importance of wearing life jackets because I mean, like I mentioned, this year especially, it's been on my lake. I know I've heard so many stories already this year of fatalities. I think by May we had more fatalities than we had all of last year, and that was just like mind blowing to me. But
so tragic.
Even just the other day, we had a situation where we have a lot of rental pontoons. So those are going to be a lot of first time boaters or inexperienced boaters taking these rental pontoons out from the marina. And they're usually, I don't know if you have these out there, but they're these like tanks, these metal, and they've got double deckers with a slide, you know?
Yep.
And
and a barbecue grill on the back.
Yeah. Most of the time they come back in with wrecked props because they don't really get any kind of training. At least our lake's very rocky. So unless you really know the lake or you're using some sort of like navionics or something like that, you're likely going to hit some rocks. So, but we had a situation just last week where unfortunately, the story is, from the fire department is that a group of friends had the rental pontoon and, one of them, I guess, was known to not be able to swim, but it was a really hot day. So he still got in the water and, just went under and never came back up. So they had to send out search and rescue, and we were going out, and at the same time as they had found the body, and they were already back at the ramp. But as we were going out, the rental with the friends we passed by, and it was so heartbreaking just to think that they went out for a day of fun and had no clue that anything like that could possibly happen. And here they are coming back in with one less person. It just made me so sick to my stomach.
And changed all their lives for the rest of their life. That will be the thing they think about.
Right. So, that could have been prevented more than likely if he was wearing a PFD.
Definitely. And the Coast Guard does an annual boating statistics report, and anytime that a boat is involved in a accident, so if someone leaves the boat to go swimming, it's most likely going to be listed as and then drowns. It would most likely be listed as a boating fatality because the boat was the primary means of transportation for them to get where they went. Versus somebody that walks off the beach on the shore and drowns. That would not be a boating accident.
Gotcha.
So in the Coast Guard statistics, 76% of fatal boating accident victims drowned, and almost all of them would have been prevented had they had on a life jacket. So we often say it's within reach. It's required to be within reach on your boat. That's part of the Coast Guard's requirements. If you're carrying life jackets and you're not required to wear them, the Coast Guard does require that children under 13 wear them while the boat's moving. But everybody has to have them in reach. But why have them in reach when you can just have them on? And there's so many different styles now. There's inflatable life jackets that are very slim. They can be like a suspender type, or they can be a belt pack, and you don't even realize that you have it on. But when you need it, you can inflate it. Mm-hmm. And that way you can stay safe on the water and not have something that's in your way. But if you can't swim and you're going to be on water, go ahead and put it on. Mm-hmm. It's by the time you find it and get to it in an emergency, most likely it's going to be too late. It takes at least 30 seconds to find it, put it on, and get it buckled correctly. And 30 seconds goes by super fast in an emergency.
Yeah. I've heard, I can't remember what it is now, but it doesn't take very long to drown, or it doesn't take very much water in your lungs to drown. So
no, they used to say that babies and toddlers can drown in just 2 inches of water, like at the bottom of a bucket. And so it goes so fast. And especially if you do have little ones, making sure that they have those life jackets on all the time. Don't take it off at all, because you never know. You can turn your back and they're suddenly in the water. And a life jacket for the little kids will have that head pillow that will turn them over so that they can't be face down in the water. And that's critical.
Yeah, and making sure that it's properly fitting before, so that it's not going to slip up too far over their heads or something like that. They have those straps now that go in between the legs. That helps as a little extra security. And I interviewed Vanessa Foers from Mustang Survival not too long ago, where we talked about all the different inflatable life jackets and things like that. That's what I wear. I have the automatic or manual option when I'm doing my boating instruction, just because I forget I have it on half the time. I mean, and it's 100 degrees out here in the summer, you're on the water, but it's still hot, and it's just nice to have that low profile jacket that I forget that I have on. So I'll share a link.
I'm the same way. I've gotten in my car to leave and I still have my inflatable on, and I'm going to put my seatbelt on, and I'm like, I can't quite. I mean, it's very slim. It sits right against my chest because it's the suspender style, but then the seatbelt doesn't fit on my hip because the strap for that is on my hip too. And then I'm like, oh, I'm wearing my life jacket in the car.
Yep, I've done that. But I'll put a link to the Mustang Survival episode if anyone wants to go back and listen to that in the show notes for this episode.
The other thing to be aware of is that there's different types of life jackets for different activities. So if you're going to do something like a PWC, or you're going to go on whitewater, you're not going to be able to wear that inflatable life jacket. You're going to need to have an actual foam style jacket that's meant to take that strong current and strong movement of water. Likewise, if you're in something like a canoe or a kayak, especially if you're in the winter months, you're going to want to make sure you're wearing it because the water's cold. And again, I probably wouldn't be wearing the inflatable in the winter. I'd be wearing the foam style because I want to make sure that it's one more layer of warmth, but it's also there no matter what, just in case the cold weather would be an issue with the inflation.
Mm-hmm. I have heard of that. And now on a PWC, can you wear the loaner jackets on those?
Yes, ours are fine for PWC use. I don't think they are rated for whitewater, but they are rated for PWC because they're the standard vest style.
Right.
But most of our stations aren't at whitewater locations.
Right. Yeah. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, would it?
We don't want to encourage people to go there if they don't know what they're doing and don't have the proper gear.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So we talked about people drowning that, can't swim or whatever, but I've even heard of people that, they're experienced swimmers and they underestimate either the distance or the conditions. There's a story of a guy out here. He's been sharing it on our local Percy Priest Boaters group just to educate people because he had an experience. I think he was out in like our party cove or whatever, and something had gotten away from him, a float or a football or something like that. And he took off swimming to get it, and all of a sudden just got fatigued and struggled, and he did not have a life jacket on. And I think he finally got to the ball, and that was what he was able to keep his buoyancy with. But he was like, that was way too close for comfort, like, and he had no idea that could happen to him. Someone who's in shape and, feel like you're a good swimmer. So that's kind of opened my eyes.
Yeah, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially if you're going off of a boat, it can be a surprise that you end up in the water. So even if you're an Olympic swimmer, but you're thrown overboard and you swallow a bunch of water, it can be scary. And so those few seconds where you're trying to come up for air, but you swallowed water and you're sputtering and it's cold water and you're not used to that, those are the few seconds that you need that life jacket that will bring you up. So that you don't have to worry about that, so that you can get that first breath of air after you've finished coughing.
Right.
And we see this all the time, especially with anglers and hunters. They'll go to land the fish, or they'll go to shoot either an arrow or their gun at the ducks, and they aren't expecting that recoil. They're not expecting the fish to throw them back. They're not expecting that motion, and they're not usually in really large boats when they're doing that. A lot of times they're in small little rowboats or kayaks or canoes, and they end up in the water. And especially if it's duck hunting season, that's usually in the winter, and then it's cold water. So they need to be wearing the life jackets too.
Definitely. Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Was there anything else you wanted to share? I know the website, boatingsafety.com, you can go to boatingsafety.com/map to see where all the locations of the life jacket loaner stations are. If you're curious to see that, there are quite a few. And was there anything else you wanted to add about that?
I just wanted to add one more detail in that we are part of our grant with the Coast Guard that provides the Life Jacket Loaner program. This year we are helping to list all of the Life Jacket Loaner stations on our map that are all around the country. So right now our map is just our stations, which there's over 650 of them.
Okay.
But we have been tasked to collect that data from all of the groups. And we're guessing there's probably over 5,000 life jacket loaner stations around the country. When you think about all the different state agencies that have them, all the different organizations, and even county governments and local governments have them. So we want to make sure that all boaters, no matter where they're located, can go on the map and be able to find them easily so that they know before they head out on the water, hey, if I forget to pack the life jacket or it flies out of the boat while I'm driving down the highway, hey, there's another option.
Right. Well, you just brought something else to my mind. I know through training with Freedom Boat Club, we make all of our new members wear the life jacket during the on the water training portion. And I mean, after that, it's kind of their decision. The life jackets are going to be on the boats. We'd prefer that they wear them, but at least during the on the water training, we actually wear them. And I've had some, we encourage people to buy their own, so they have their own for like tubing or what other kind of water sports they might want to do. And I've had a lot report to me that they've been going to the sporting goods stores and cannot find them. So, a lot of people are out of stock on stuff this year just because there's been such high demand. And so it's good to know that there's that option too for the loaner stations. So you don't have to go.
So if you want to submit your loaner station, you can do that at the boatingsafety.com map link as well. There's a link at the top of that map area that you can submit your loaner station locations as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and talking about this such an important topic. And we'll have you on again next week where we'll talk about another program with the CETO Foundation that is also extremely important, called the Sober Skipper Program. So look forward to having you back on.
Thanks so much, Angie. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks everyone for tuning into this week's episode. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And also subscribe if you haven't already to make sure you don't miss any future episodes like the one next week, where I'm going to welcome Gail back to the show, and we're going to talk about a program that's near and dear to my heart. I'm actually on the advisory council for, and we're doing some fun stuff. And I hope that you take a moment to tune in next week and enjoy what we have to talk about regarding the Cito Foundation and their Sober Skipper program. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.